right. Well, welcome everyone. We'll give folks another minute or two to join us. Before we begin, just a heads up that you all will remain muted, but we will open up the floor for questions, comments, considerations. Once we are done with the formal part of our presentation, we do want this to be an open forum for discussion. So as you're getting situated, please do feel free to use the chat for any questions, comments. If you want to drop your name, say hi, feel free to do so. And you may also use the Q&A section if you'd like to submit a question. You may use that as well. So one last reminder here, we are recording today's session. We'll send that out in a follow-up email after today's call, along with presentation slides and resources, ways to connect, etc. So we are coming on about 2 minutes after the hour here. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and we'll get started momentarily. Right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. My name is Ben Herring. I'm the Director of Partnerships with TU Collaborate. Today, we are going to be talking about impact in the community and Giveback analytics for credit unions with our friends at NetGiver. Super excited to be joining you all. Want to just kind of set the stage a little bit before we jump in with some introductions here. The reason why we're really focused on this part of and how important this is for credit unions is we know that the number of credit unions is declining. And so as of the 70s, we had somewhere around 24,000 credit unions, even more than that before then. And to date, we have somewhere around 4,600 credit unions in the country. And so as you can see, there's been a steep decline. What we also know is that credit unions are continuing to be under attack, and excited to know that some segments of our business, some really important critical parts of being a credit union have been preserved. I'll talk about that here in a moment, but it seems to be that we do need to continue to fight for the credit union mission and how we are aligned as a business. Lastly, we know that credit unions are going away, and sometimes we're seeing this trend of kind of credit unions partnering together on mergers and acquisitions. And the other side of the story is that there are not a whole lot of new entrants coming into our space. And so how can we really harness the credit union story to our benefit and preserve credit unions of all sizes as we look on into the future? And so today's session, we'll talk a lot about impact analytics, demographics. I'm really excited to learn more about what NetGiver is doing in this space, especially on CU Social Good and their sponsored giving platform. And then we'll share with you how to kind of get started. Before we get into my part of the presentation, wanted to hand it over to one of our newest partners here over at NetGiver. Eric Berg is actually, I call him a credit union friend of mine, and really excited to have him on this call today. Eric, could you jump in and provide just a brief introduction?
Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Eric Berg. I'm the co-founder of the QSO NetGiver. We launched NetGiver a number of years ago as a platform that allows credit unions the ability to sponsor the giving of their members and their community when it comes to giving back. And that's the whole basis for NetGiver, is a tool that is like the Venmo of giving, specifically for credit unions. And we've had just an amazing run with this product, and have, as Ben can attest to, we've been drinking the credit union Kool-Aid ever since. I've been a credit union member since I was in college, which was a long time ago, and have been enjoying getting to participate with credit unions in this wonderful area of give back and the unique value proposition that it provides. And so that's what we'll talk a little bit about today as we dive into how some of these things converge and use it as an opportunity to really make a difference, not just in the community, but also a separator from how we operate differently as financial institutions. So look forward to jumping into that here in a little bit in partnership with our friends at CU Collaborate.
Thanks, Eric. Nice to have you on the call today. And as I mentioned earlier, my name is Ben Herring. I'm the Director of Partnerships here with CU Collaborate. I've been in credit unions for 14 years and used to work at a credit union. Then prior to my role at CU Collaborate was at the League, the Minnesota Credit Union Network. And during that time, and actually through my time here with CU Collaborate, I've had the chance to start a new credit union, Arise Community Credit Union. Got chartered last year, and we actually just opened our doors last month. So you can become a member of Arise Community Credit Union if you'd like to, if you fit within the field of membership. We'll talk a little bit about that later too. But super excited and very much a passionate player in credit unions. I'm very much a self-described credit union nerd. So really want to just set the stage on, if you don't know, I do see a lot of familiar names and faces out there. So nice to see you on the call. If you don't know, CU Collaborate is a QSO. Several of our credit union clients across the country supported our changing from a kind of a for-profit entity to our QSO model, and are really focused on maximizing growth for credit unions. We are a data and analytics company, and we seek to empower credit unions to adapt and thrive by leveraging their proprietary data alongside technology that we build with them that leverages our deep subject matter expertise. So we have a full consulting line of business to help our credit unions like dive into strategies that are going to help them prosper. And as we do that, here are kind of like the three main buckets of business that we get into: growth, performance, impact. And then that translates into some very specific tactical things that we do. We are currently still the number one field of membership and expansion company in the credit union space, and then backing into helping credit unions with seg growth strategies, their merger strategies, consumer marketing and branding. Underperformance and impact is where we're going to spend a lot of our time today. So helping credit unions look at and benchmark to their performance across various different segments of their business, developing out branching strategies as a result, product development, and then as of late, especially focused on some of the beneficial regulatory programs that are out there for credit unions, the CDFI certification, the low income designation, and various other niche regulatory programs that credit unions can take advantage of to do what they do on a daily basis and do more of it. So really wanted to showcase what we're doing in partnership with NetGiver, CU Social Good, and wanted to give you kind of just a lay of the land of what CU Collaborate's doing in our partnership overall. And specifically within this partnership, taking a data-driven approach to advocacy so that you can leverage the information that you already have about your members and your business and translate that over into what it means to be a part of the credit union movement, what our mission of people helping people means. And then eventually, I think we all really want to see credit unions, grow, at scale. And so we are every credit union was a small credit union at one point. And how can we take insights from what the bigger players in our space have done to help smaller credit unions continue to scale? And part of that is actually helping to leverage our movement to start new credit unions, because I think that we can see a healthy industry is when there are new entrants coming into the space as well. So much of what we're going to talk about today around impact is really telling the credit union story. And I don't think that there's a better epitome of the success here when it comes to, Don't Tax My Credit Union. That campaign is obviously an industry-wide advocacy initiative. And we saw that credit unions really came together here. And as a result, we were able to protect our credit union tax exemption status recently in some legislation that came through. And so what does it mean to be able to not only tell the credit union story, but also to be able to tell specifically our own individual credit union story as we have deep histories, right? We know our members and we understand who we're serving. How do we help others in our community that aren't yet members become members? And so I think we're also seeing this trend of credit unions coming together. It's definitely a core cooperative principle of ours. This credit union philosophy of people helping people. There's also cooperatives cooperating with other cooperatives, et cetera. There are a lot of these things that we say as cooperative financial institutions. How can we then translate that down into members coming into our doors? So I'm going to talk a bit about what CU Collaborate is doing. We're going to talk a bit about what CU Social Good is doing. And we're going to give you some examples of ways that credit unions are actually taking the next step of getting members into the door. So at CU Collaborate, we've developed out several different dashboards, one of which is what we call the impact report. I may actually end up showing you a live version of this momentarily, partially because the snapshot that I got here is a little bit blurry, and it's actually far more interesting when I can show you a real world example. But we developed out an impact report that helps credit unions take in the financial and business data that they have and translating it over into data points that are important for legislators to understand what the impact that credit unions are having into their community. And so I'm actually going to transition over to that. As credit union affiliates of league partners and associations that CU Collaborate works with, you have access to some of these dashboards. So the impact report is one of them. Anyone on this call here, we can get you access to impact reporting. What we do is we take your credit union's areas file and we enrich it with several different data points that we have access to at the Census Bureau. We have credit bureau data, we have bank and credit union call report data, and spit back some very important figures when it comes to your impact within your very local community. And so when you log in here and go down to the impact report, we can show you things like the annual member benefit. What this is doing is it's doing an apples to apples comparison of the products and services that you extend out to your members and showcasing on an annual basis how much on average you're saving your member just for utilizing your products and services. So for example, this particular credit union, this is a live version, is saving on average their members about $450 a year for using their products and services. So that means when we talk about lower interest rates on loans, right, or higher interest rates on savings and certificates, some of these industry talking points that we tend to use, how does that actually translate to the consumer? How does that translate to your prospective member? Here's a very real example of that, right? And so $450 is a pretty significant chunk of change when it comes to our average members, right? I would love to, if anyone that wants to give me $450 a year, please, anytime. And so as we're talking to not only our legislators, and that's how often our credit unions are leveraging some of this data, they're also using it for board planning sessions and strategic planning across their leadership. When it comes to talking to your members, how do we then take this data and turn it into a story? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We can also share with you a little bit more detail around who your members actually are. So for doing this, you now have access to some demographics data that we are more than willing to provide to you. By uploading your areas file, we can show you a lot of different pieces that we have coming in through the Census Bureau. So we take a statistically significant and sound approach to showing you things like race and ethnicity. Who are your members when it comes to language spoken at home? Across the top here, there are several different tabs that you can choose to take a look at. You know, when you're talking about maybe some seg strategies, where are your members currently working? Where are you doing a fantastic job of reaching your members when it comes to various different industries and within the labor force? And how might you move the needle on some of the segments of the labor force that you're intentionally trying to target, right? We're hearing a lot of credit unions developing strategies around veterans. How do we serve our veteran members? We can help you not only identify who those individuals are, but also even down to which wars they were in and how they're serving our country. And so a lot of different opportunities here to understand who your members are. All of this is really critical when it comes to messaging, right? And how do we tell the credit union story to prospective members to get them to join our credit unions, right? So wasn't necessarily anticipating doing a live demo, but I thought that it was relevant for today's call. We can also show you things like down to the member, their scores, the types of loans that they're using, and help you package this into resonating with the individual that is coming through the various different channels, whether it's your website, your social media, or otherwise. And then we can also help with crafting messaging around getting back to the legislators, right? So sharing the credit union story and our mission to help us impact the broader industry. As I showed you earlier, there are a lot of different data points here. We can show you things like economic contribution. We can aggregate total consumers in any geography. So when you log in, it's going to show you against the country, but we can drill it all the way down to state legislative districts for you and show you exactly how many members you have in those very specific legislative districts. And then what we do in partnership with our leagues and association is we will aggregate all that information and allow our associations who are on the front lines of advocacy better tell your region's story through this data as well. The last few things here, just for doing this, as I mentioned, we want to help you better understand who your members are so you can resonate with them. We also are willing to open up some of our other dashboards just so you can take a look at things like how are we serving our CDFI areas. So many of us on the call here might be CDFI certified. If you are not, you can take a look at how well you're doing in reaching investment areas. And even if the CDFI certification maybe isn't on your strategic plan, although if you're close to your lending target, you may want to take a look at this program. But we can also just say, hey, we serve X amount of individuals and provide X amount of loans within these areas when you're talking either with your legislators, with your leaders, or probably most importantly, your members. So with that, I'm actually going to transition over to Eric here in just one moment. The last thing I wanted to highlight was for doing all of this, we're also willing to help you contribute to Project Zip Code. We've done so in partnership with leagues. We'll take your data that you have in store at CU Collaborate, create a file, and send it on your behalf over to Project Zip Code to make sure that your members are being counted in this very important, critical advocacy initiative. And of course, we'll leave this with you, but have several clients who are willing to sing our praises. I won't land too hard on that particular one, but know that we've been doing this with credit unions, and we would love to serve you on that part. So with that, I'm going to actually send it over to Eric. I'm going to pull down my screen here for a moment. I see some comments coming through the chat and some Q&A here, so I'm just going to pause here as Eric's pulling his slides up to review what might be coming through that channel. So Eric, I'm going to answer one quick question here before we get started. Just to clarify, we had a question come through the chat. The demo platform is currently in CU Collaborate membership. So if you are a client of CU Collaborate, we can open up that part for you if you don't already have access to it. And if you are not, I'd be happy to make sure that you do have access to this if you don't have my current login, and I'll show you how to do that here in a moment. So thanks for the question. And with that, thank you, Eric. I'll transition it over to you.
Handoff. Am I sharing the right screen, Ben?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks everybody for jumping on with us. And to Ben's point, CU Collaborate has an enormous amount of very important data that helps us run our credit unions and be more deliberate with how we are engaging with members. It's really important that, especially in today's day and age, that data and the information that we can collect about our members and our community help shape and guide our credit unions and the business we run of a credit union. One of the things that has been mantra of mine for my entire career is always looking for that unique value proposition that comes along with what helps separate us from the competition. And you can refer competition in many of the ways that you want, whether that's talking about competing with banks or other FIs or fintechs or whatever it might be. And we have to take a look at where we're really strong. We're really strong in a lot of different ways. But one of the areas in which credit unions excel is in the area of Giveback. When we built NetGiver, one of the things we really wanted to do was make sure that we had a community feel for what we were doing with the platform itself. We got connected with the group that had started CU Social Good, which was the Dakota League and some of the other leagues around the country. Started the platform called CU Social Good, and the intent of CU Social Good was for credit unions to be able to come together in one place and be able to share their stories of impact in the communities that they serve. And it took us about 1.5 or 2 years to convert what was the old CU Social Good site. So if you haven't been on it in the last year or so, you probably haven't seen the new version of CU Social Good. But it is the place where that can take place. And so what we did is we rebuilt it in a way that allows all credit unions to be able to tell their story in a way that helps us not only take the qualitative stories, but also to quantify that information as well, so we can begin to tally up the impact. So you'll see, and I'll jump into doing a short step through on setting up or telling a story on the platform as well. But from our homepage, you can start to see the number of hours that have been reported, the number of dollars that have been reported by credit unions across the country telling the story of impact in their community. And this goes on top of, if you will, the frosting on the cake from what Ben was talking about when he's talking about all of the business data that goes into running a credit union as part of the CU Collaborates platform. So when you start talking about not being able to tell the stories of impact that you're making in the community, and we're able to tabulate that and hold that in one location, it also helps us tell a deeper story, and also gives you feedback back on how your credit union is participating in your community, as well as what other credit unions are doing in other communities, and to be able to share that cooperative experience of telling that story. The stories on CU Social Good are published every day. Stories continue to come in about the impact that credit unions are making across the country. And with each of them is not only the story about what the credit union did, but also the ability to, like I said before, quantify that the good that has been done from that particular instance. And in that case, it's an individual story. But it also takes and helps you every time you upload another story, upload more impact. It also tabulates for you the entire impact that you've made as a credit union across all your stories that you're sharing. So it's a really powerful tool to be able to work with in a way that takes the give back that you're doing in your community, the impact you're making in your community, whether that's the volunteer hours or whether that's dollars donated or matched or made as a corporate contribution to entities in your community, all tabulated in one area to help support the data that Ben was talking about a little bit earlier. We also want to make sure that for any of those folks that are looking at either joining a credit union, or for any of the folks, our friends in Congress that want to know the impact that we're making in our communities, we track that as an impact map on CU Social Good. So you're providing information that will be shared across the country, and to be able to show the impact that credit unions collectively pull together as cooperatives, and the impact that we're making all together in that way. As we look at how we want to move forward and how we want to continue to tell the credit union story, one of the things that I think is really important for us to consider is not just the fact that we have these stories of impact, but that we share them in a way that resonates with the audiences that we are communicating with. And to give you an example of that, I've spent a little time doing some research on the different social media accounts of many different credit unions across the country. And the thing that has shown up again and again in our analysis of looking at these accounts is, and you'll notice this on your own as well, when you tell a story of impact, you see the numbers and the reactions that occur on those stories that you tell far outweighing the stories of, financial literacy class, for example, as important as financial literacy is, or an offer that you might be putting out there for a new credit card versus, the impact that you made at a school where you were able to raise money to help buy school supplies for kids that, weren't able to afford that. Those are the kind of things that really make the impact in our communities. And so we start talking about our members and making sure that they're sticky. We want to tell those stories. And when we start talking about expanding this into other demographics and specifically younger demographics of folks that may not know what a credit union is, to have them see the stories of impact really makes a big difference. So that's really important to lean into. Telling your story on CU Social Good is very simple to do. And I'm going to just flip over here to give you an idea of what that looks like just really quickly. Again, CU Social Good is an absolutely free platform for you to be able to use to be able to tell your story and to share that. And we provide that because we feel it's very important that these stories are told and collected in one location. So once you've created your account and you've gotten in to see the impact that is being provided by other people, the impact map that is showing up in the your instance, you can very easily also come in and write a story very easily in the CU Social Good platform. So, like, for example, I'm just going to type in here, I'm going to type title again, and then a description of what that is. And you can put the words in here for the story, add an image, put in your body copy here, which will tell the rest of the story. This is a copy and paste kind of a thing. Feel free to do that. Add YouTube or Venmo video instances and a full gallery. And then from there, you can fill out the rest of the information on the impact that comes to play. And I stepped through that for you, but obviously it's fairly self-explanatory. And that really is as simple as it is to be able to upload your story of impact to CU Social Good. And it's something that, again, is open for you to be able to use at any time and tell all your stories. We do ask that these remain stories of impact. We know that there are a lot of great things happening in your credit unions where people are being promoted and rewarded for their service to the credit union, and those are great pieces of information. But this is really about collecting the information about the giving and the impact that you're making in the community, either for volunteer hours or for dollars donated, matched, or raised as part of your organization. So, for example, that might be a volunteer day out at an event that you're doing. It might be a sponsorship that you had for a nonprofit's gala where they've raised additional money. It might be a fundraiser that you had done for a booster club or something in your community. But it also could be, and this is where I think it becomes a little bit more of a net giver kind of a program. It might be something where you do as part of a net giver program. In a lot of cases, what we tend to see is credit unions do something wonderful in the community, and they tell the story, but it's not a story that makes an impact for the members or the community itself. It's just the credit union writing a giant check, or the credit union making an impact kind of in a vacuum. We want to also be able to say that there are ways in which in promoting and discussing the kinds of things that you can do in terms of impact in your community would be the dollars that are associated with giving back and helping to promote that. So let me just quickly shift gears here now from the CU Social Good side of things and talk a little bit about what I mean by making that impact individually to your members in your community. And it really comes down to this. When you are able to put a product in front of your members that allows them to be able to give back and sponsor and have their donations sponsored, that allows them to be able to make a donation without having to pay any of the processing fees that go along with most donations. But it allows you to be able to capture that information of the impact that you're providing. You know how much they gave, you know where they gave to, and you also have an idea of how much you save them in terms of the fees that are associated with that. So 3 very important key areas of impact that are a part of that. Ben, as we've talked about a little bit here in this collaboration, collecting all of this data is very important when it comes to knowing the full picture of things. But one of the things that I think that you and I have talked a little bit about is how we not only how we measure this, but actually how we make this into something that can be of value when it comes to just individual pieces of giving. Now, we'll dive into at some point in time later on more detail as it relates to how to pull these things together, maybe in a future webinar. Well, not maybe, for sure in a future webinar, correct? And how we talk about how that partnership can work on our end. So is there anything before I transition a little bit more into sponsor giving that you want to touch on in here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that we actually do have a question as it pertains to the CU Social Good platform coming through the chat. Maybe good to touch on here while you have it up, which is, I think you highlighted some of this, but is there a way to add the amount of supplies from a supply drive, for example, or how would you quantify that?
Yeah, then you'd put the dollars associated with how much has been donated in that case into the dollar amount as part of that entry. Yep.
And then I do have another question here. I'll save that question here for our open section. But yeah, I think what we're really trying to do in partnership with CU Social Good and with NetGiver is to take this full cycle. So tell the credit union story and do it so that not only is it effective, but also quantifiable, right? And so we're taking the business side and really trying to marry it with the mission side so that ultimately we can, going back to some of the first slides, grow our credit unions, right? And so how do we actually, one, tell that story, two, start to take the mission, the things that we say that we're doing, and actually do them. And then, through things like sponsored giving and getting maybe even our credit union members involved in that. And then finally, how do we take the individuals in our community that are connected to our credit union and welcome them as members of the credit union so that we can actually grow, right? And so did you have more to share on this? Otherwise I can transition over to mine.
Yeah, I'll just quickly talk about that outreach you're talking about, right? Because member giving, important, right? To the question about donating school supplies and making that part of the community impact. What we want to make sure of as well is there what's available to help make sure that you can capture the audience that you're connecting with, because there are folks out there, when you make those donations and they don't know what a credit union is and they haven't had an experience with that, they don't know how to communicate back with the credit union, right? We'd like to think that they're just going to walk in the door, they're going to go online, or they're going to connect with you in some way, shape, or form. But you all know, and you've all seen the numbers of the people that the hits that you get to the website and the numbers that drop off, right away. That's not uncommon for the credit union space. So in terms of how we're looking at doing this is what we do is we put the Venmo of Giving together, which is the Venmo platform, so that when credit unions sponsor giving in their community, this becomes the Venmo of Giving, the app that goes out in the community, and your members and your non-members get to use this, and your brand is on the platform. And we work with the nonprofits in your community and those nonprofits are telling donors, and those donors are coming on the platform, and then they're seeing your brand, and they're having a chance to experience your brand in a way that is unique to credit unions, and that allows them to be able to experience a credit union without having to walk into your branch, without having to download your mobile app. It's just there as a product to help support the community, and then in return, the reciprocity of that is the driving back to the credit union because of that impact that you've made in their lives. Now, you've made an impact because of how you've sponsored the giving, but you also have collected the data on where they're giving and who they're giving to, and all of that data is all also available in the NetGiver experience. So taking that data then and then putting that to take it full circle back into See a Social Good, putting that impact back into See a Social Good helps you tell that story again of more impact that you're making in the community. And that's quantifiable and also qualitative in its nature.
Great. And I think to bring this back to, kind of what is the primary goal here, and it is to ensure that credit unions are thriving on through the future. And I think that to the extent to which we can connect our members in on the causes that are important to the credit union and the community, we can actually also, through things like NetGiver and through things like See a Social Good, look at what is it that our members love, right? And what is it that our members are really connected to, and how can we then maybe connect the credit union to what our members love? And so it's kind of a win-win scenario here, or I guess not to use a Michael Scott, but win-win-win scenario, where your community.
I had that in the graphic earlier, so it's a win-win-win scenario.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Michael Scott. That's what Michael Scott isn't. Sure. Yeah.
And so, I mean, taking that then from resonating with your member, being that conduit for philanthropy to community organizations, we're then looking at connecting in back to what See You Collaborate does to help you bring those folks into members of the credit union. So, Eric, would it be good for me to jump into my last slides here?
Go ahead and do that.
And so, I know we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but wanted to land on, okay, so what does this all mean, right? And so something that we're working on in partnership with folks at NetGiver are trying to transition those givers into actual members. And so we know right now that eligibility is posing a significant barrier to membership. It's where consumers drop off in the process of becoming a member the most frequently, and we're actually seeing 84% of abandoned applications drop at the field membership validation step. And so that's something that we've figured out at See You Collaborate how to do, and we want to help credit unions take it from drop off, which is kind of what you're seeing on the screen here, is I don't know if I can become a member, and so I'm gonna guess I can't become a member, et cetera. And so they leave. And so what we've been working on and what we can provide to credit unions as a part of this is taking givers, reducing the eligibility friction, and then turning them into actual members of the credit union. So we want to go from story to impact, or impact to story maybe. It's a cyclical process, right? And then ultimately use this to grow members, right?
And I think, so, and I think, Ben, if I can just jump in too, I think this is exactly the key point, is that we're going through this whole process of really making sure that the audience knows what we're doing, show that impact, and then the ability to move them from just being aware to actually becoming a member.
So as Eric mentioned, we're gonna share more about exactly how does all that work on another webinar, yet to be scheduled, but it will be scheduled. And so really want to kind of bring this around to what are asked for you today, and then certainly get back to some of the questions I'm seeing coming through the chat and the Q&A section. For CU Collaborate. If you haven't yet, you can go to cucollaborate.com and enter in your credentials if you already have them, or if you're not a member of CU Collaborate or don't have access yet, when you go to the login button, which is very prominent up at the right-hand corner of our homepage, click on sign up and you'll just add your name, email, and create a password. If you are not an affiliate of one of our league partners, or if you're not sure, I'm actually going to drop in my meeting link. And happy to take this offline and show you how to do this, make sure that you have actual access to the system and get you in there. So I'm dropping my meeting link in the chat right now. And then for the CU Social Good component, really want to make sure that you're going to CU Social Good's website, creating a profile with them, and starting to quantify some of the qualitative efforts that you're doing, some of the real stories that you're already likely aggregating, and have a house for where those stories are going to live, and include them in on what the rest of the industry is doing. So with that, I know we have a couple questions. Eric, do you have anything else to wrap up what I just mentioned there?
I will also drop my calendar link into the chat as well for anybody that needs to follow up with me for specific questions on CU Social Good or NetGiver. So I'll put that in there as well.
And so I already do see some questions coming through. Melissa, thanks for your patience. I saw your question come through a while ago. And you're referencing kind of the associate example that I had provided as it pertains to engaging with SEG partners. But yeah, there are several different ways that you can actually go about looking at who it is that you're serving and the businesses that they're connected to. Your particular question is around, is there an option to indicate whether credit union staff are members at the credit union, specifically through the Aries file? Great question. I know that probably many of us who are maybe on the HR side of things, or just wanting to understand how best to serve employees at the credit union, are really interested in not only are our employees eligible, or sorry, our employees using products and services at our credit union, but what are they, and how can we best serve employees that we're in community with, right? And so happy to elaborate on this on outside of today's call if I'm not going to fully jump into everything, but the short answer is yes, you can actually add a data field for your seg codes on Aries files. So what credit unions are doing today, I know this is something that we were looking at when I was at a credit union, and I know other credit unions do this as well, is adding in an employee seg code for your credit union. So much like you would do, if you're not seg based, you might have an additional seg code, and maybe the only seg that you have is really just your credit union, and you would flag your employees with the seg code for your particular credit union. They're an employee of your credit union, right? And then pulling that data to look at who are your members in that seg. Obviously, they are your employees, and I'm better understanding who those employees are from a product and services standpoint, right? So yeah, you should be able to add that as kind of like an optional field to your Aries file in like an eligibility or seg code section. And let's see another kind of follow-up question here. Is there an opportunity for a credit union's foundation to be listed as an organization to give to? Could this be tied to a CU sponsorship package? Eric, I'm gonna let you take that one.
Yeah, for sure. If your credit union foundation is a registered 501c3 organization, and that process has been completed in terms of timing and that kind of thing. I know the IRS was a little bit behind there for a little while. Then yes, absolutely. The every 501c3 registered with the IRS that fills out a 990 is in our database as a platform or as a nonprofit that can be given to through the NetGiver platform. So by all means, any of the foundations that are out there, whether it's a league foundation or whether it's a individual credit union foundation, is available to receive donations in the NetGiver platform.
Any other questions or comments coming through the chat? We'll give folks maybe another minute here. And so as we're rounding out today's session, again, the two main calls to action are, if you haven't yet, get in to CU Collaborate's complimentary software. If you're unsure if you should have access to it, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm gonna, Eric, maybe we can both drop our email to the chat as well.
I'm gonna have to have Pete do that for me on
or I can add it for you. I can add it for you too.
I sent Pete my Calendly link too, so maybe he can throw it in there as well. So yeah, and I think that's the thing too about CU Social Good. It's complimentary. I mean, it is absolutely available to be able to use. Please do use it so that we can continue to collect stories and the data around those stories.
The two free and complimentary resources for you to start looking at and quantifying the impact that you're having within your community. Stay tuned for more details about kind of our follow-up here to dive deeper into how to take those stories and translate them into give back at a very tangible, like dollar level, and leveraging your members to do that, and then also resonating with the consumers that are coming through that channel, whether they're members or not, and actually turning those prospective members into actual members through we're doing in partnership with NetGiver and CU Collaborate. So with that, I don't see any other questions coming through. Eric, thank you so much for your time today. We're super excited about this partnership, and any final words to leave us with?
Yeah, Ben, thank you for your partnership and your time today as well. I think what's really great about the credit union space is this cooperative model is something that not only is unique and something that credit unions can have really leaned into in the past, but more and more folks are understanding what cooperatives actually are, right? And so by being able to tell our story and do it in a way that allows us to be able to tell the best parts of the story, it really does make a big difference. And so thanks everybody for coming on to this webinar today and learning a little bit more about how to do that. And we look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.